Alright, so this is training log number 23 now, and this will be the second ever pre-race video I've done. Recording this on Wednesday at the moment, I've got my first ever 70.3 on Sunday. So this video is going to be back to sort of the old format that I used to do, where it's just going to be a lot of me talking, but I'm just going to talk about sort of my nutrition plan, my race plan, training in the lead up, you know, goals and expectations for the race, things like that. So I mean, going into this one, it is my first ever 70.3, but in case you are new to my videos, just for full disclosure, I have done a full distance Ironman. I did that in May of this year. Relatively, I'm pretty new to triathlon. I only really got into it this year, but this would be my first ever 70.3, so my first ever half distance. I mean, I've signed up for this one now, really with the intention of having fun and getting some good race experience. So this video now, I'm just going to talk about the sort of things I'm going to be aiming for and what I'm going to do in the lead up for it. So first thing I'll talk about now is just nutrition in the lead up. And I'm not going to change a huge amount from my first Ironman to what I'm going to do for my 70.3. I'm also not going to change a huge amount to my nutrition in the week leading up to the race compared to what I normally eat. So the main things I'd prioritize is just in general, good healthy eating, but trying to get in some good fats and some, you know, complex carbohydrates. So things that aren't too high on the glycemic index. But overall, keep my diet relatively simple. I don't want to have any stomach issues in the lead up, and I am not going to really force feed myself. I'm not going to try and do a huge carb load. Yes, I will try and eat more carbs, but not to the point of like a gluttonous carb load where I'm forcing food down my throat, because I don't want to start race day heavy. So yeah, this week, just standard good nutritious meals, pretty basic food that everyone would eat. And then just the same as what I did for my first Ironman, Thursday and Friday, I'll try and increase the carbs a bit, prioritize those. And then Saturday, the day before the race, I'm just gonna have a normal day of eating. So a bit more sodium than normal, but I don't wanna do anything that I'm not already used to the day before the race, because you don't wanna wake up with any kind of stomach issues the day of the race. Now, race morning, I'm just gonna have a pretty standard breakfast that I normally have, which is just some Greek yogurt with some nuts and seeds thrown in there as well. This is the same thing I ate for breakfast on the day of Ironman Australia, but that day I didn't have any carbs, electrolytes, or anything like that before the race. And then when I got out of the water, I was cramping. So to try and stop that, straight after that breakfast, I'm just gonna have some salt tablets, and then I'll be sipping on Gatorade essentially all morning until the swim starts. Now, before my first Ironman, I thought to myself, this will be fine. As soon as I get down to the area where, you know, transition before I start the swim, there'll be aid stations set up and I'll be able to grab some Gatorade and things like that. But there was not. So I'm definitely going to be taking my own drinks down there this year, or this race, I should say. So yeah, that's a pretty good tip for anyone that is actually doing a race, is don't rely on there being things available from the race at the start. Yes, at the aid stations, you know, once you start the bike and the run, there's plenty of things available, but before the swim, there's nothing. So you've got to take your own stuff down. So yeah, this week leading up to the race, the things I'm really prioritizing is good healthy fats in the form of, you know, nuts, seeds, avocados, eggs, yogurts, good complex carbohydrates, and a slightly higher sodium intake than normal. So just putting a bit more salt in my food and taking some salt capsules after and before workouts. Okay, so let's talk about actual race nutrition now. So I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. As I said, at the start of the race, I'm just gonna be sipping on Gatorade before the swim, and then jump straight in the water. As soon as I get out, when I'm on the bike, I'm gonna have 3 Gatorades on the bike. So hopefully I won't be on the bike for any longer than 3 hours. Hopefully 2.5 hours to 3 hours is how long I'll be on there, which means I'll need about 2.5 to 3 Gatorades, because my nutrition plan is just really simple. It's 1 Gatorade per hour, 2 salt sticks per hour, and there's an optional gel if I want it. So I sort of go with a pretty flexible nutrition plan there with the gel if I want it. I don't want to force anything down my stomach, and then I want to have an option there that if I am hungry, if I think I can take on more nutrition, there's an option there for it. I think if my nutrition plan was too rigid, that's only going to lead to stomach issues in the future. It's either going to lead to stomach issues or I'm going to be under fuel, I guess, for the second half of the race. So as soon as I get on the bike, smash down a Gatorade, and I will try and front load as much nutrition as I can for the race. So make the first Gatorade that I have will be a slightly higher concentrate than the last ones. But those Gatorades should have about 60 grams of carbs, and then can't remember how much sodium that's in them, so I'll put that up on the screen there now so you can see it. But it's essentially 60 grams of carbs, and then I'll put up the amount of sodium that's in the salt sticks as well. Now once I get off the bike and I'm on the run, I am going to take the exact same approach I did with my first Ironman as what I'll do in the 70.3, which is I'll just take whatever I'm craving at the time on the run. So they've got all the cups set up along the aid stations. Typically it's either Gatorade or Coke, and then I think 1 in every 4 or 1 in every 2 has Red Bull. So what I did, and my Ironman that I'll probably do in this one as well, is I'll just start off on Gatorade, and then if I feel like having Coke, I have Coke. But again, I'm trying to keep this nutrition plan relatively flexible so that I can grab whatever it is I'm craving at the time, because I figure that's what's most effective for my body. Now, a life-saving tip for anyone on the run, if you are racing this weekend, I used to always grab cups in like marathons and half marathons when I would do them and just pour them straight over myself, because I could never figure out how to actually drink it while you're running. But if you just say take the cup and pinch the top in, you've essentially just created like a little straw that you can drink straight out of. So grab the top of the cup, pinch it, so you fold the cup in half, and then just drink out of the tiny little gap that would be in there. All right, so that's my nutrition plan. Super simple, easy to remember. 1 Gatorade, 2 salt sticks, and an optional gel, pretty much. And then flexible on the run. So with that being said, let's talk about pacing now. So my goal with the swim is to swim that in around 30 minutes, which is about 135 per 100 pace, which I think is pretty achievable for me if I'm in a wetsuit, but I haven't done too much open water swimming. So I'm not putting a huge amount of stress on the swim. I just want to swim that one good and efficient. My main goal is to get out of the water ready to get going on the bike. So in the last race I did, when I got out of the water, I was exhausted. So my legs were cramping up, seizing up, and the first 30 to 40 kilometers on the bike were pretty miserable because of that. I just had no energy because I used it all up in the swim. So swim efficient, but hopefully I can get out in around 30 minutes. Now, when I'm on the bike, I'm gonna be trying to hold about 220 watts. I'm not too sure how fast that'll get me because I've never ridden on the Sunshine Coast course. And I'm also gonna have on a new set of race wheels. So it's hard for me to know just how fast that'll be. I'm thinking maybe like 34, 35 kilometers an hour, but I'll just have to see what happens on the day. I know there's a couple hills coming in and out of town for Sunshine Coast, but majority of the course is pretty flat and on really smooth roads. So hopefully I can go a bit quicker. Now, once I'm off the bike, on the run, I'm gonna be trying to run that at under 4 minutes 15 per kilometer. So put that up in miles, but essentially that would get me to just under 90 minutes for the half marathon. So my goal really is to run a sub 90 minute half. But overall, I mean, my main goal, obviously I signed up for the race, to have fun and get some good race experience. But one of the main things I want to experience in this race is running off a really hard bike. So in my last race, I had a lot of back issues and cramps where I couldn't really ride as hard as I wanted to ride. And that meant that when I got off the ride and onto the run, my legs were a lot fresher than I anticipated. And I never really got to experience a good hard run off a really hard bike. So I kind of, if anything, I almost want to overdo the bike in this race just to get that experience of running in a race off a really hard bike. Now, total times, let me have a look at a calculator here. So if I get out of the water in 30 minutes, if I ride at, let's say 34, I'll be ambitious and say 35 kilometers an hour. And then if I was to run at 4:15 per kilometer, this is a phenomenal day where nothing goes wrong. That would finish me in around 4 hours and 40 minutes. So that would be a pretty good time. Honestly, I'll be happy with anything under 5 hours. Granted, I think that bike could easily slow down to 32 kilometers an hour. And then if I don't run too well, that could quite easily get up to say 4:25 per kilometer. And that would get me just under 5 hours. That would get me to like 4:56. So really anything under 5 hours is gonna be a pretty good day for me. And it's gonna be a great fun experience, and that's the main thing I'm there for. Having a look at the start list of my age group, there's some pretty strong guys there, so I'm really not going in with any expectations of getting any decent place in my age group. This is just a fun race. There's plenty of people that are way faster and way better than me. They deserve the win. So it's going to be a great experience to go up against some guys that are just on a totally different level to me, and that's something that I can aspire to in my training. As far as being able to watch along the race, just like last time, I'll put a link to my tracker in my Instagram bio, so at Lachlan Earnshaw if you want to follow it along there. That's probably the easiest place to find it. It'll be on September 11th starting at 6:10 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, the race isn't live streamed or anything like that, so you just have to follow along on my tracker app if you want. but I'll try and get some more footage over the actual race weekend and put together, you know, a bit of a race video, a little bit better than just the recap that I did last time. So yeah, that's it basically for my expectations and plan for the race. Just going to go into it looking to have a lot of fun, do a really hard bike and see what I can do off the run. Survive the swim, get some good open water experience, but all in all, just get some good race experience. You know, Ironmans are still my focus, and the 70.3 is just great for experience. I'm gonna have a lot of family and a lot of friends there, so that's the most important part about doing any kind of race, I think, is, you know, the environment, the atmosphere, and the fun that you have there. So let's have a look now at the actual training in the lead up to it. So I'm gonna cover off on the 2 weeks leading into it. So that means I'm gonna cover off on last week and then what I've got planned for this week. So having a look at last week, that was 17 hours and 45 minutes of total training. We had 13 kilometers in the pool, 280 kilometers on the bike, and 62 kilometers of running. So this was, you know, a pretty solid week of training, all things considered. Friday we took pretty easy, and Sunday we took pretty easy, but there was some key workouts in there as well. So kind of a taper, but still had some pretty good quality sessions in there. The week starts out on Monday just with a 5K swim, and I wasn't too happy with this swim, honestly. I averaged 144 per 100, which isn't great for me at the moment. You know, I should be swimming a bit faster than that, but there were some longer intervals in there. I'll have those up on the screen so you can see them. But look, sometimes you don't have the best swims. I think that's all that Monday was. I wasn't too worried about it. There are times where I get in the water and I just don't have a great feel for it. The other workout we had on Monday was just a 40-minute easy spin. So I wasn't feeling too great on Monday, in all honesty. Tuesday starts out now though, just with that strength session that we typically do on a Tuesday. So it's basically a couple leg exercises like squats, deadlifts, lunges, and then you go into some core work. And it's just basic core work, you know, planks, sit-ups, leg raises, things like that. Not too strict with that. And then I typically jump in the sauna straight after that workout. Tuesday lunch, and I often add in now just a 70.3 over-under specific session. So just bouncing between 200 to 230 watts, typically 2 or 4 minutes at each, and just go back and forth. I think this one was 4 minutes at 200, 4 minutes at 230, repeat that twice. So it's essentially 16 minutes of, you know, somewhat work, 5 minutes recovery, 3 rounds through that. So a pretty moderate to upper aerobic session for Tuesday lunch. And then Tuesday afternoon, we finish off on a track session. So I often go and do this one with a pretty strong run club here in Newcastle. Plenty of runners that are a lot better than me. This session was kind of a complicated one. It was 2 rounds of 1K, 400 on with a 200 float, and then back to 400 on. And you obviously repeat that twice because it's 2 rounds. I didn't feel too great in this session, honestly, but that was more a stomach issue rather than fatigue. Like, I just ate crap food on Tuesday, if I'm being honest with myself. And then that one, overall 10 kilometers, 430 per kilometer pace when you take into account the warm up and the cool down, but nothing too special there. That takes us to Wednesday now. We start out Wednesday morning with a 90-minute ride, which is 4 rounds of 10 minutes at 270 watts with 5 minutes recovery between each. Again, I'm probably still not feeling the best here, so a bit of a slow start to the week, but I managed to get through the whole workout, you know, got it done, and sometimes that's all that really matters, especially with harder workouts like this one. Wednesday lunch, and I just go straight to the pool, jump in, and that one is 3.1 kilometers with mainly just a lot of 100. So it's essentially 24 100s is what we do on Wednesday. Average pace for that one, when you take into account the warm-up and the cool-down, was 135 per 100. So this is probably the point where I start to feel a bit better. Confidence rises up a bit. And then we finish off Wednesday now just with a 1 hour aerobic run. So we average about 504 per kilometer, done on the treadmill, and average heart rate was in the low 140s. So nice and aerobic to finish off the day. And that's a pretty solid day, good triple day. And this is probably the point where my confidence starts to come up a bit again. Now, Thursday morning, we're on the bike. It's a 2 hour aerobic ride. And I average 165 watts. So nice and moderate that day, nothing too hard there. Thursday lunch is just a 2K non-stop swim, and I chuck the wetsuit on for this one just to practice it before the race next week. Now, I do 2 kilometers non-stop in a time of 31 minutes, 19 seconds. So that's 133 per 100. I was pretty happy with that and felt pretty comfortable in the wetsuit. So look, if I can do that on race day in the open water, I'll be stoked. That'd be a great swim. Thursday finishes off with a hour 20 run, and this is probably the highlight of the week. It's certainly the strongest I've ever felt running this particular route. Now, I'll put the elevation up. It's the one where I start at home and I run downhill. It's like 5 kilometers at a 2% grade, and then I run back up. So this workout was 2 rounds of 15 minutes at a medium intensity, which is like your upper aerobic. And I did those 2 by 15 minutes going back up that 2% gradient hill. And as I said, this is probably the strongest I'd ever felt running back up that hill. So I was really happy with this workout when it finished. I'll put the paces up there that I did, like, because I lapped my watch essentially, so you can see how fast I ran those 15 minutes. But average heart rate in the 150s, so it was still aerobic, but I was running a pretty good strong pace uphill. Quite happy with this one, and that finished out. Thursday was a pretty good day. That's almost a 4-hour day of training, and I finished it feeling quite strong. So I was happy with that. Friday was a super easy day because it was just a 2.8 kilometer swim, and it was all technique focused. So a lot of drills, which will be up on the screen. Nothing too hard at all about that one. Gave us a good rest day before Saturday, which was planned as a 100 kilometer time trial with a 6K run off the bike. But the weather was pretty terrible on this day. A lot of wind and a lot of rain. So I thought that the time trial out on the road wouldn't be too relevant. It wasn't gonna give me a lot of data because the weather was so poor. So instead I had a chat to the coach, and we just made that one a 2.5-hour time trial on the trainer indoors. He was kind of happy to write this because he said he's gonna put on a 5-hour time trial coming up soon, just to see what I can push on the indoor trainer. So doing a 2.5-hour time trial now is a good benchmark to see where we're at. And for that one, I averaged 226 watts for 2.5 hours. So we had a 20-minute warm-up before that and a 10-minute cool down at the end. I wasn't too strict on staying in the aero position, but I did spend a fair bit of the time down in the aero bars. For the runoff, it's a 6K runoff. It's written as 6 by 1K with the first 5 at race pace and the last one easy, and that felt pretty good. I chucked back on the Nike Alpha Flyers, which is what I'll do the race in next week. And they are a pretty phenomenal pair of shoes. They certainly add on quite a bit of speed. It's the first time I ran in carbon shoes since the actual race in May, so feels good to be back in some springy shoes. But that was it for Saturday. So the workouts were done relatively early that day because it was just a 3-hour ride with a quick 6K runoff. And then Sunday, last workout of the week, that was 90 minutes at a super moderate intensity. So again, on that somewhat hilly route where it's just that long 2% grade, but 90 minutes, 17.8 kilometers, 503 per kilometer. So that's around 8 minutes per mile. And that's it for the week. So that's essentially, you know, the 2-week out from the race. And then we're into race week now. So I'll just quickly run through this one. On Monday, we had a whole day off, and this was my first day off in 124 days. So it wasn't fun. I was getting pretty, I think my mood was just terrible this day because body was a bit shocked that we hadn't done any exercise all day. But we got through Monday all right, and then Tuesday started out just with a 3.1 kilometer swim. It's 4 by 100, 3 by 200, repeat that twice. And then just, some drills and technique stuff around that as well. And then the next workout on Tuesday was just 20 by 1 minute at FTP. So 90 minutes total, and we just do 20 rounds, 1 minute at 270 watts, 1 minute easy. Wednesday now, and I have started off today just with a 1-hour easy aerobic ride. And then as soon as I finish this video, I'm just gonna head out for a 50-minute run. It's gonna be 20 rounds of 20 seconds mad with 40 seconds recovery. So 20 seconds of just good hard running, and then 40 seconds easy. So really just, getting a bit of speed in the legs, pumping some blood through, but overall that'll be pretty easy. I'll probably go do it on the treadmill. Tomorrow is planned as a day off, but I have just asked my coach if I can do, an easy run or a swim or something like that, just to keep myself moving. And then the classic taper, which, Train Smooth seems to do in the lead up to the race, which is Fridays, just 1 hour total of swim, bike and run. So just nice and easy, but I can do 20 minutes of each if I want. Saturday, the day before the race, is just gonna be 45 minutes of swim, bike and run. And then Sunday's race day. So that'll be the taper in the lead up. And yeah, so there's a couple good quality workouts in there, 20 rounds of 1 minute at FTP, and then the 20 by 20 seconds at, a fast run pace. So at least I get to keep moving throughout the week, but overall it's just backing off all the volume and intensities. And then, yeah, hopefully I'll be able to start the race super fresh on Sunday. And that's it. So that's my plan for the race. That's the training that I've done in the lead up. The next video you see will be, you know, a race recap or a race highlight video. If you do want to follow along in the day, just check out the Instagram. But yeah, otherwise that's it. Time to go racing.